Hello, everyone. Watcher. Welcome to my gaff. I'm just setting up. That's all right. Can people hear me? Hello, Annie. Good to see you. Hopefully, we'll have a few people. I don't care if there's only like 3 of us or something. It'll be like a proper poetry gig from back in the day. So I'm not bothered. So can anyone see or hear me at the moment? Just drop a little comment in to let me know that I am visible and audible. Otherwise, I'll have to write it in the chat. Hello, am I audible? Am I visible? That's me smashing my tumbler and my whiskey together. Let me write a little comment there. I have no idea. Audible. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, you can see me and I sound all right. Great. Hello, Dan. How's it going? Hello, Annie. Brilliant. Okay, in that case, I don't have to do it. I'll get started in a second. Just need to do my usual thing. If I'm going to stream, then I need the nectar of the gods, all the sort of recommended. This is it's kind of I think what I like about this whiskey is it's named, I like the sun but I don't like Tories, so it just sort of, I don't know, it's got that double thingy going on. I'm just going to muck about for a second and then I'll get started just to see if anyone else pops in the meantime. But anyway, yeah, I was thinking of starting off like this, and then everyone would have wondered what that liquid was. Anyway, I'm going to pour myself one. Tell me when to stop. Yes, I do hold a glass like I'm some kind of weirdo. I should add before I begin, I think we better stop there, eh? See how we go. I applied some last minute because I thought I'm going to do this on YouTube. I don't want to do this on. I find Zoom a bit. Firstly, it's like where everyone goes to work, and I don't think you want to do a reading or a book launch where people work. Basically, you wouldn't want to do it in your office. Mr. Grimm, Slauncher, sir, Slauncher. See, there's some wonderful people in this chat room already. So good to see you all. As I said, I decided I'm going to go with YouTube. I don't want to do one of these invite only things or something like that because no one would turn up then. So I just thought I'm going to do this on YouTube. I did a little poll on Twitter, and most people were like, do it on YouTube. Few people wanted it on Zoom. Few wanted it on Facebook. No one wanted it on Twitch. Hello, Mr. Alacard. How are you, sir? The alligator man has arrived. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drink whiskey, but yeah, sorry, I never get to the end of my thought when I'm doing these things. There's some I decided, just in case, because occasionally, like Apples and Snakes ran something on Zoom, one of their first gigs, and it wasn't invite only. I'd like to begin this with early 1970s Hammer horror film references in the chat. So Apples and Snakes did this, and then they did their stream, but it wasn't one of these invite ones, and they just had the trolls rolled right in and took it over and posted all kinds of just ugly nastiness all over the chat and links to really, really foul corners of the internet. I don't think that's going to happen with me, but just in case, I basically applied some filters in the chat and I just copied and pasted a big list from somewhere and I just dropped it in. So the reason why I'm saying this is you might write something. I managed to look through it and there were words, there was some proper horrible crap in that I was glad in that filtering list, but there were some words that just were completely weird and innocent, or just words like booze and boozier. And so I was just sort of going through for the past half hour, going through just finding these absolutely okay words and deleting them from this list, but I just ran out of time. So I just apologize in advance if you write something in the comments and it's completely normal and nothing untoward about it at all. But it just ended up being on this weird puritanical list that I've filtered, that I've put in. This is probably why the chat's quiet now. I don't know. So I'm just going to read. This is not going to be too complicated. I'm going to just read poems from my book for an hour tops, and then and that'll be it. And then hopefully me and Chip Grimm will be doing a launch, a proper launch, a physical launch with actual beer and people and their associated droplets, just all mishmashing together. Maybe the Betsy, I don't know, but somewhere good. And because Chip's due a proper launch, isn't he? As am I. But I'm glad you guys are here. So I'm just going to read some poems from this book. Sorry, just looking for one more thing. Bollocks. That word I actually rescued from my chat filters. Always the way. I've lost my glasses before I've even begun. So this will be interesting. So there's going to be a lot of squinting. That's a real shame. I had I don't know. No. I do believe my glasses are lost. I'm really sorry about that. I'm just going to have to squint at my book. Anyway, let me get to my first poem that I'm going to read. So, I haven't shown the book off. There it is, eh? Absolute thing of beauty. What do you think? Gorgeous, eh? There it is. Out now. All good bookshops. There we go. Found my glasses. So, got them dad skills tonight. Yes, me and you at the Betsy Chip, definitely. They're always a bit wonky, these. Anyway. I'm going to read a poem from the book now. Okay, so yeah, as I said. Exactly. There it is. Werewolf of London. And lost my glasses again. I'm going to read a poem. So this poem, right? It's weird seeing you lot in the chat. I suppose I could have done a Zoom thing just so we could all chat or something, but it's not about you lot, is it? It's about me. It's my moment. I've been waiting 14 years to bring out a full collection, and it's finally here in the world. Okay. I'm going to start off by reading a poem that was going to be the first poem in the book. It was the first, and I understand because the first word of the poem is poetry. And no one wants to be that on the nose when they start a poetry collection. Like if I was a sifting reader for any kind of prize list, and I really couldn't give the runniest of shits about prizes, but if I was on one of those prize lists, the first word of a book being poetry would probably be an instant, like chuck on that other pile type thing. So I do understand why this was moved away from the beginning. It's called Ordinary People, and it was written after a certain Ford prize one year. I can tell I'm in proper like handbag mode already, and it's just going to get worse as this hour progresses. This was one of those years for the Ford Prize when they had actors in. Do you remember that? I think it was one of those years when they had actors, and they also started getting in well-known public figures as the head judge. So poets would all read their poems, like the nominated poets would read their poems in a small bookshop on Brick Lane, and then somewhere like the Purcell Room or something, the actors would read the poems out there. And then even when the poets won the prize on the night, they didn't get to kind of go up and talk at the podium either. I'd like to begin. I'd just like to. Things have improved since then. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but I remember what the full prize. Tim Wells also remember. I'm sure others will remember what full prize ceremonies were like before that. Okay. Anyway, so the reason why the thing I'm getting to here. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a lot of talking. I'll be interrupting myself in the middle of poems as well, and there's no way I'm going to read the entire list of poems that I wrote out a couple of hours ago. But the other thing is that this is why I wrote the poem, because Jeremy Paxman was the head judge that year, and in his judge's comments he said that more poetry should engage with ordinary people. Probably made that face as well afterwards, and it begs the question, doesn't it? What is an ordinary person? So I thought I'd have a bash at it with this poem. Ordinary people. Poetry should engage with ordinary people who sit in their gardens and watch the butterflies flit about the buddleia, who drive moderate distances through rapeseed fields to places they feel obligated to be, who go out once every decade or so to watch their third favourite music act and come home sober and disappointed, who buy 7 jazz albums before realising they don't like jazz, who married for love, who married for fear, who move their sex toys from the sock drawer to a box in the attic and almost forget about them, who remember to erase their browser history, who hate their job but love their children, who hate their children but love their job, whose lives twine with the lives of others around telephone poles and not much else, who find momentary happiness in a first glug of beer at a pub bench just off a motorway before despising every moment of the holiday. Oh, I would write for them if I could. Who doesn't want a piece of W.H. Smith and the O2 Arena? Ordinary people, where would they be without us? So that was going to be the first poem in the book. I'm going to bring up my little set list that I made now. So yeah. So it's just let me do my hey Ava, how's it going? Good to have you here. So look, this is my big sell. If I was going to do my QVC channel moment with the book, right, is that the book is kind of a new and selected, but I haven't brought a new book out for a long time. So just in case you haven't got your mitts on this book yet, and you have maybe got 1 or 2 of my other books, if I show you here, like I'm dividing it now, yeah, that's the new, right? That's the selected. New and select. Go on. Autofocus. Do it. Oh, yes. Look at that. Selected. New. Okay. So, you know, hi, Anna. Welcome. So, yeah, it's, I think you're going to get lots of new poems and you're just going to get all the best poems from the other books anyway. Okay. Okay. Next one. One theme that runs through this book a lot, and it's not really written in the right up at the back. I do like Nee's blurb, by the way. I do like Nee's blurb. There's one line that makes no sense, but it makes no sense in quite a fancy way. So that's what blurbs do. And I think if you're a poet, you can't be precious about your blurb. You just have to let if someone's paying money to bring your book out, they get the blurb. You get a little bit of feedback, but they know they're the ones selling it. So all of this is theirs, and all of the stuff inside is mainly yours with a little bit of feedback from them. Okay. So anyway, a lot of this book is about gentrification. The poems that were written in this book were written between like 2008 and about 2015, 2016. So that's all the new poems. So there's, you know, I don't mind that. There's a phrase from Alexander Pope, which he gets from, I think he gets from Horace, which is hold your peace 9 years, which is the old sort of classical advice. So before you publish your work, hold on to it for 9 years. So I'm not as extreme as that, but the newest poems in this collection are about 5-6 years old. So this one was written way back. And if anything, I have tinkered with it over the years to make it more of its time. So it's called Route 68, Walworth Road. People might know that route. People might know that bus, might know that road. The mind itself is a rowdy top deck, so I have no problem dipping into Walcott despite the ruckus down back. Kids giggling, build up, scream crescendo, causing mum to clutch a flip phone to her chest. Shut up your noise. Our eyes will us outside to pluck ripeness from fruit and veg vistas, to be by the small booth, international phone cards, watch straps, next to the crouching cellar, to know economics, what's busting from his speakers, causing that odd rocking jaw clenching. Rolling on, past a 24-hour bagel shop, so much time, so few bagels, past the flapping banner of the worldwide power church ministries of Jesus, the Lord is my accountant, I shall not declare. Past the curiously named mixed blessings, bakery. Strong hands do not do irony. Irish bars, steadfast as failure. Dark doors swallowing the bookies flotsam. Whack for the daddy-o. Past the last occupied flats of the Haygate estate. We're improving your area. We need you to leave. My eyes return to Tertzarima, sea almonds, Bougainvillea. The littlest one screams again, and then the slap. I heard some great. Yeah, I like that bus, the 68. There's the churches. You know, some of them are those sort of Pentecostal churches, and they always have those banners outside. And sometimes when they're a bit more settled, they get a proper sign in. But some of the banners are amazing when you go past them. And sometimes they have the banners for the visiting pastors or the big sort of 3-day worship events that they're going to have. And my favorite one is still my favorite banner there, which I share every now and again, actually. There was a banner outside one of these churches, and the banner said, keys to divine enlargement. So that was one of my favorites. I also remember the Haygate estate and going past it a lot. I've never been to the Haygate estate. I still like some bloke sitting on a bus looking at the Haygate estate, writing poems about it. But something like that suddenly sort of coming down is quite conspicuous. And I think the thing that always freaked me out the most about the Haygate estate, when people were being moved out of it, and in the end, the last tenants were forcibly moved on by the police before rebuilding could begin. And the bollards and the hoarding said something like, finally, a community place where you can belong, literally after the police evicted people who had bought property, you know, during option to own. But the thing I always remember is the whole estate being lights out, no lights out on the streets, lights on in the streets, and then literally just the few people hanging on in those big old tower blocks, a few lights here and there, just a few little lights of those people who maybe were old, maybe couldn't move, whatever, but had to walk through in just absolute pitch darkness up the stairs, you know, along the byways to finally their flat where they could turn a light on. That always freaked me out. Is there a keys to divine enlargement banner in Ghana? It's just, yeah, I just love the accidental smut of it. Let me have a look. Let's get another poem up. Okay, I am going to read the first poem. I've decided in my old age, I'm a bit pretentious, so there is a bit of Japanese here. There it is. You see that? Obviously, it's not proper Japanese script. It's a phonetic rendering of Japanese. But there we go. I just love the autofocus on this camera. Do you see that? See, anyway. It's called Ikiru, and anyone who likes watching the films of Akira Kurosawa will know this one. Well, it's the film is basically about a civil servant in Tokyo, works for local council. People are complaining about a playground in the opening scenes. He goes to the doctor. He finds out he's not got long to live. And then he goes through this kind of phase of coping with his upcoming death. I don't think I'm giving too much away here. It's not that kind of film. But what happens is that he starts off sort of hedonistic. He drinks. He tries hanging out with this younger woman. There's a point where he goes to a nightclub, but he kind of sits in I guess the Japanese 1950s equivalent of a chill out room where someone's playing a piano, and he sings this song called "Life Is Short." Which is those are the lyrics there, but I'm not going to sing them. And ultimately what he does is he finds meaning in the end by committing himself to rebuilding the playground. And there's a famous scene where he's singing that same song, "Life Is Short," near the end of the film, and he's sat on the swing on his own in the playground in the rain. Now, the background for this poem for me is that when I got 2 kids. When the youngest was born, it says the dedication in the book says for my daughter, so I might just say daughters. When my youngest was born, I'd take her to the park, and she was very little, and I'd get on the swing, and I'd just have her on my lap, and I'd swing. And then I'd notice that there'd be cars driving down the road at the side, and I realised I'd be there with a trilby on. It was my trilby James Bond hat years and a bit of a long coat, looking a bit like someone from the Lady Killers. And I realized that all the people, as I'm swinging with my daughter, just holding her one arm, swinging like that, and then I realized that everyone who's driving past, they can't see the baby. All they can see is this man with a trilby and a long coat on going wee on the swings. And maybe I did it at the sameish time every day. I am. Just responding to comments about me being pretentious, but I've made peace with my pretentiousness. So yeah, people basically would have just thought there's that bloke who doesn't go to work. Maybe they thought I was some guy who lied, like when guys lose their job in the city and they lie to their families and they just go to some cafe or park and sit there all day. Maybe they thought I was one of those guys just having a go on the swings. Anyway, I'm going to read this one. Ikaru. The commuters thrashing their hatchbacks up Dog Kennel Hill cannot see my daughter pressed tight to my chest. They can only make out my trilby sporting silhouette, perched on a swing in the empty playground, not unlike that beleaguered Tokyo civil servant, mumbling a sentimental dirge to himself as the tumour that is feasted on his generous spirit is almost ready for the bill. Then there's the song. Oh, do 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 do. Do 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 do. That's how it goes. Exactly how it goes. From where I am, this bright autumn morning could almost be a spring day. My baby girl laughs at the sky as we teeter towards it. Life is short. One thing you'll get right if you read this book, I guess even from beginning to end, the way it's been even the way it's been arranged seems to go to this, which is it's going backwards in a way, but there seems to be a story about a man, just that little bit more testosterone added as it goes through to the old poems at the back, and then it's just there's a lot of testosterone in my older work, and I just think some kind of testosterone vampire has slowly sort of milked it out of me every night, just a tiny amount, because it just doesn't seem to be there anymore, and I'm very happy about that. I have to say, much happier person now that I'm not walking around like some kind of. But it's just still, maybe it's the whiskey. But yeah. So maybe we'll just be ending this on a big old testosterone sort of surge. Okay. So I nearly called this "Now is not the time for politics." Nearly kind of gave that. Yeah, I nearly gave this that title. And it's a title of a sort of sequence, not a really long sequence of poems, but it comes around the middle of the book. It's still one of the newish poems, and people will probably know that in 2011 and 2012, I had a blog called The Mundane Comedy, because it's like a pun on Dante, and I wrote a poem, and it's still there. You can go and look at it. Just look up themundanecomedy.wordpress.com. But you can just I wrote a poem a day in Tertserima for a year. So it was the year my first daughter was born, and it was the year the Olympics happened, and it was an interesting time just to write all this stuff. And so I at the end of this, I had 300 and whatever poems. I think I had 366 or something poems. I think I had an extra one, and I just had all these poems, and I finished the thing, and it was cool. It was amazing to actually do this. To sometimes when I just had to write a really short Tertserima poem at 11:58 at night because I hadn't done it that day, and then other times, and this is what you got here, where hours after my first child is born, I'm writing the next poem and posting it while sat on the floor in a maternity room. So ultimately I took some of these poems and I wrote a show around them called Now Is Not the Time for Politics, my only one-man show. I won't be doing that kind of shenanigans again. I think it's one of those rites of passage, but I did it once and that was great. But just me memorizing an hour's worth of stuff it was difficult then. and in my old age it has got worse. So I then took those poems again and I distilled them into this sequence in the book. Now is not the time for politics, and ultimately it tells the story about me becoming a dad. So yeah, I'm just going to read through some of these poems. So here's the first one. The speck of life that stirs within your womb is now a fact sanctioned by our GP. A place within the crowded polis looms, and so begins the trend to entropy from nature's realm to citizen of state. From breath to name before your first nappy is, like our dearest leaders, full of shit. And yet it's never felt so radical. This spawning sport that's played from whale to gnat. How the mundane becomes so magical. I guess all reveries become statistics, as poems become periodicals, ephemeral pleasures considered, listed. And I had one of those apps. I was such a typical first parent. I had one of those apps that kind of literally showed you how big the the fetus was, or the embryo was, or whatever. After every amount of weeks, what kind of food it was. Everything from like, I don't know, from a sunflower seed or whatever, from smaller than that, obviously, to a honeydew lemon. So yeah, so that forms the background of this. Week 9. Now you're the size of a grape, all organs present, and you've lost your tail. 7 months until you make the leap from viewless womb into the teary veil. I'm at the blues bar, early for the stag. I'm nightly no mates, solitary male, adrift from the reverie of the pack. I down my Murphys, fire off a few tweets. Outside the sun blazes, inside time drags. The boys are running 30 minutes late. I'm counting beats to Howling Wolf's evil. You mark the 4-4 of your mother's heart. The both of us snug in our darkened bubbles. And then we just jump. There was a bit more between this, but we jump to the bits. We jump to the labour, and we spent, well, to kind of give away the story that's being told here. We ended up spending, I think, at least 10 nights in the hospital, maybe longer. Part of that was because, well, the baby was induced, and that's just a hell of a process that I won't go into detail about. Yeah. But so this was about, about induction. Labour hasn't started, so we snatch whatever sleep we can as hours stream like fluids through a drip. I keep a watch for midwives that appear like fleeting dreams and vanish with the words, "I'll go find out." The curtains flutter, they never return. Before I left at 4 a.m. last night, I heard a newborn's first cries down the hall. Despite the rain that sputtered down outside, the birds on every branch sang loud and shrill. Right now, a blue partition cuts us off from the Polish single mum-to-be's sad call for doctors, birthing room, and pain relief. And you, my love, are somehow able to curl up against the chaos and drift off. I self-administer an espresso. And then, as I said, I wrote a poem hours after my little one was born. Like, my wife was exhausted because it was long. It was long, the labour. And so I did the skin on skin. So I guess this is about that. Okay, daughter dearest, hear this right. That crazy stuff each side of you is noise. That crazy stuff in front of you is light. That warbling beyond the curtain is some Pentecostals giving Satan the boot from a bed provided by the NHS. The NHS aren't devils or devout. They are our nation's socialist backbone. The young nurses that once cried Maggie out are still walking the wards where you were born, although the moral high ground that they tread might soon be privatised by George Osborne before that hated, heckled baroness has sunk into her private trust pillows to die a premium, elitist death. Oh dear, I'm talking politics. I know. It's yet to cross the mind of your sweet ilk, though, while we're skin to skin, I must disclose, like Thatcher, my man boobs won't give milk. There's two ways of dealing with it when you're when your little one, when you're a man, you've put on a bit of weight, and your little one tries latching onto you. Um, you could get a gym subscription. You could maybe decide, okay, need to sort this out. Or you can call excitedly for your wife to get a camera because you can show it to them when they're a teenager. I'll let you get to whatever decision I made there. Okay. So things ultimately didn't go to plan, or any plan to kind of leave the hospital right away. Didn't go to plan. Little one had to go upstairs to special care, and my wife also needed a blood transfusion. So both of them had to kind of be kept in. And I'll always remember going up to special care and holding it all together, feeling very emotional, being the strong man, being the emotional heavy lifter of this family. And then uh, me just chatting to a nurse about it, and me doing a really good job of holding it all together. And then her saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" Well, I've got to go downstairs, look after my wife for a while. Then I know that she's in good hands, but I just want to come up and look after my daughter as well. And then the nurse went, "Yes, but who's looking after you?" And I was just like, and then I just burst into tears, of course. And she gave me a hug, and then I composed myself again. But yeah, but just there's nothing, it's just, I don't know how to, I don't know, when a nurse is dealing with a bunch of sort of like babies in these tiny plastic cots, some of them on ventilators and stuff like that, and then just a man gets emotional in the middle of all that. It's I don't know what happens. Anyway, okay. I take the trek up just one flight of stairs, scrub my hands and arms, and walk on through to find you strung with drip lines and thick wires. Your readings have been good, steady but slow. You're doing your bit under watchful eye of surrogate aunties, Filipinos and Irish nurses too. You sleep as I take you into my arms and whisper how your mother's getting strong as well. Your cries are easily sighted, though my own still bubble upwards, lava like, sudden. And though you tip the scales at £7, your humble heft helps me to hold it down, maintain composure, keep the long sob in. Your short vowels hold back pity's pale poison, the sweet song of the smallest violin. I'll read a couple more from this sequence. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read two more, so I'm going to skip a couple. This is the anti-penultimate poem in the sequence. So we're still in the hospital, but at the same time, while I'm in a certain situation, I'm so aware of the suffering of others, especially how people who are just suffering so much more than we are, even if you're there in hospital for a week or whatever. So yeah, and I do believe, there's that in Buddhism, compassion follows from recognizing that everybody suffers. And so I did feel quite compassionate while I was at the hospital. I felt quite connected to people. And yet, when I was out of the hospital, I was Mr. Testosterone again within seconds. So this is about that. The hospital gives me the chance to bring the first noble truth into focus, for all that breathe are also suffering. But when I head outside to catch the bus within the clammy streets of Camberwell, it's not long till I ditch the mindfulness and tell a stranger to go fuck themselves. Probably the best rhyme in the book there, isn't it? Camberwell and go fuck yourself. Okay. Last one from this sequence. This is how it ends. This is the one that had people in tears when I did the show. But, obviously there was a lot of build up, and let's face it, you're a bunch of heartless mercenaries if you're watching this. So anyway, yeah, you're lovely. You're all lovely. I'm just being a dick. Okay. I try to picture this child in my arms as an old woman in a distant time, in spite of climate change or nuclear bombs. I wonder if she'll read these dodgy rhymes to great-great-grandchildren I'll never know. Well, are you currently reading these lines? Have I been gone a long, long time? Hello. That's going to traumatize my daughter when she's really old, isn't it? Anyway, okay. It's just actually quite sadistic when you really think about it. I know. I'm just going to write something and just try and make sure that one of my, whenever my children have God, my children have just sort of let my memory become a faint, pleasant thing. I'm just going to sort of jump up in their consciousness after they read that poem and go, hello, like that. Okay. Here's the next one. I'm going to read this poem. So I think that's, yeah, thank you for that. Anyway, so just seeing Abba's comment, you're right, I'm heartless. I've seen your Twitter, Abba, and I know you are heartless. Okay. Anyway, wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of you. Right. I want to read this poem because I think I like this poem and no one else does. And it's kind of one of my pretentious poems that's based on a Zen Cohen. Well, part of it is. It's also, I went through a bit of an interesting sort of period of kind of weird, I guess, well, not weird, but I went for a kind of like this skeptical atheist type thing, because I guess I finally kind of done the work of perhaps undoing my religious indoctrination from my childhood. And then I really wanted to know everything, because that's the next thing you do. You kind of go, oh, I'll just know everything then. And thinking that maybe I'll get all that from science and anything else. And you go through science, and yeah, it's amazing. Science is, we'd all be dead if it wasn't for science, and it just does amazing stuff, and it tells us amazing stuff. And then I get to the problem of consciousness, and it's like science really just hasn't explained it, and may probably never explain it. And so I started reading dodgy philosophers who would kind of do the thing where they go, oh, it's just nothing, don't worry about it, it's consciousness, consciousness. So I won't go into detail about eliminative materialism and stuff like that, but this is probably when I came out of that, when I kind of felt, because it does sort of almost come to a crunch sometimes, where while I have no doubt the brain is like, exhibit A in us being conscious, I don't doubt that for a second. We just don't know. Otherwise, we don't really know what it does. We don't know the basics of phenomenology and how that translates into this rich experience that we have of this world right now. And I think that's a point where a lot of people just have to make peace with that, and notice, and so that they can't bring these things together. So my poem about coming to terms with that is written literally in a poem that just takes the person I love and just says, oh yeah, I love you, you're wonderful, you're all these wonderful things, and yet you're weird, made of weird, meaty, sticky, gooey, yucky stuff. And that's ultimately the kind of schism of materialism. And I compare it to a certain Zen Koan, which is the story of that koan is told in the poem. It's called Love Song of a Lapsed Materialist. And I wrote so many versions of this poem. I think that's why it went in the book in the end, because me and this poem have had quite a few wrestling matches over the years. Homebound on a district line carriage, I shoulder your head to stop the world, press my cheek to the top of your crown, and hear something throbbing, knocking from within. It could be the echo of your heart, hammering iron through your veins, or the soft, wet brain beneath your ink black hair and dull white skull, and permeating through your every cell, the judder of rails, the humming wires. And I'm reminded even of that Zen koan, the runaway couple who returned home after exile sweetened childhood memories. Expecting the worst of a wronged father's wrath, the man advised his wife to wait outside and cross the threshold only to meet the bemused father's incredulity. She's been ill in her room these past 2 years, and at that point, both versions of her appeared. One from outside, one from the bedroom door, and like two mat layers, both were merged together. But as I meet this version of you revealed by the physicalist census of your parts, and the you revealed by what the word love fails, my heart pumps blood to my brain, and my brain tries to picture my heart. And though words spark from the shock of their collision, for all those times I swore they were the same, I cannot clasp these two worlds together. I was thinking about that Zen koan. The whiskey's working its magic, obviously. I was thinking about that Zen koan, and it is literally Zen koan. It says, guy runs off with this young lady. They run off together. Then she's like, I've got to go back to my father. We can't just, we can't live a life like this. Husband goes in first. Father says, no, she's in her room. He said, no, she's outside. And then both come in and they merge. And I get what it says. I do. I know we're not meant to get Zen Cohens, but I do get it that we don't really know another person. We just carry around a version of them. I know that's controversial, but it's just, we don't really know someone else. We can't get into their rich experience of the world. We can feel amazing in their company. We can surprise and delight each other with the things that we do and say. But it's the same the other way around. The old cliche of the missus asking you, what are you thinking? And you're thinking of being a spy. I think that's an Ed Byrne joke or something. But she thinks you're thinking about something deeper and darker. So yeah, but as I said, that it's quite a patriarchal Zen Cohen, isn't it? The woman in the poem only exists as a projection of a husband or a projection of the father. And I don't know, maybe someone should write a version of a koan where the woman's just outside and goes, oh my God, they both think I'm in there, and she runs off and has an amazing life. That's what I'd like to change about that poem. Okay, let's look at my silly set list, shall we? Yay, I'm going to read this one. This one's for Chip, because it's a boxing poem. This one was from that same Terzarima, Mundane Comedy. I read this at Chip's birthday shindig, and there were a lot of boxers, and call me a overly self-conscious man. I think I was making a joke, right? So I'm on this Zoom thing, and I was making a joke about editing Chip's book. I'm very proud to have been part of that process. And I spoke about whenever Chip would sometimes give me a severe look when I'd make a suggestion. And how Chip would just sort of like, I go, how is that one? And I'd say, maybe we can get rid of this line or something. And Chip would give me this look. And I made this joke about how when Chip gave me that look, I'd just do a little wee. But like, not like a, when you do a wee and it's small enough that you don't have to rush home. You know what I mean? Don't have to rush home. Just little wee. And so I made that, and everyone laughed. It was a good joke. And then this bloke, because it's Zoom, right? So someone talks. They've got the settings where someone talks, and they just fill up the screen. And so I made this little joke. Everyone laughed, and then this massive heavyweight boxer bloke, I think called Big Chris, just turns up on the screen, going, "What's he talking about?" And I did another little wee. So yeah, perfect record. So, but I'm talking up. So I'm introducing the poem, and I felt self-conscious right away. And there was a lot of boxers in this call, and this poem's a kind of an appreciation poem for anyone that's been called a journeyman in boxing or wherever else, because I think to make a living at something is kind of amazing. So I always, and I'm part of that school of, you can't talk critically about a boxer unless you've got in a ring and tried a bit of it yourself. You can't just kind of go, oh, look at him, he's a coward or whatever. Unless you got in there and have someone else trying to smack the granny out of you, you're not in a position to talk. Anyway, this is the poem, A Perfect Record. We arrive at the same time as he does, to some stirring mid-90s anthem. The arena's almost empty. We've got hours until the main event. The young and handsome prospect enters next to wild applause from 20 family members, then the customs of referee's instruction and touch gloves. The bell rings and the prospect goes in fast. The journeyman covers, ducks and weaves. They always run right in. Their flailing fists are keen to make short work of him. He knows from all these monthly pocket money fights, fed to the debut boys, his return blows are known not to cause problems. His efforts revolve around giving the punters a show while not taking too many heavy shots, so he can make his loser's purse next time to pay the bills and keep the missus sweet. She's at home, watching X Factor. The chime of the last bell provides longed-for relief. He hugs the prospect, whispers lies to him about how he'll have a successful life and not be a domestic nearly ran. His string of losses holds back debt and grief, a rosary necklace of bearable pains that gives a chance to those he loves the most. He's gone before the knucklehead refrains of smash his head in ring from post to post. The slobs in suits, the patriotic orgies of jingoistic bias and lewd boasts at ring girls with their labial wedgies. But all those rituals are yet to come. We once again scan through the program's pages. The journeyman begins his journey home. Here we go. That fight was Ricky Burns versus Katsidis and Paul Smith versus George Groves, I do believe. Good bill. Anyway, was it Small White Chris? It was definitely a big black heavyweight boxer guy, unless he had some fancy filter on. I might be getting boxers' names mixed up. Anyway, okay. I'm sure I would have been the same with Small White Chris as well. I'm sure Small White Chris probably would have made me do a little wee too. Okay. Got the goblins trying to heckle me from the other room. Okay. Let's read a few more of the new ones, and then I'm going to read some old ones, and then we're done. I don't even know what the time is, actually. Let me just have a look on my phone. I know I'm overrunning, whatever that might be. Let's have a look. How are we all doing? Yeah, I knew it. Got like 10 minutes. I could waffle forever. I mean, this is like anyone who sits through my lectures knows how this works. Okay. I'm going to read one more new one and maybe some of the old ones. So what am I going to read? Made a little set list because I did a lot of recordings of these poems and I put them on my Instagram and my Facebook and my Twitter. I see. Sorry, I just saw Chip's clarification about the Instagram filter. I do. Big Smoke. I can post it to you, or I could just buy you a new one. Happy to do either. I will drink to that. My honor. Everyone's got receipts on me, by the way. Anyway, I quite like that. Anyway, okay. I'm going to read this one, just because it's about trying to make a living from poetry and some of the gigs I've said yes to. And this is about when I worked with a company called Creative Partnerships, who aren't around anymore. They were kind of part of that Labour putting money into the arts and stuff like that. And this is one of the gigs I got from them, where I went to a Catholic school in Clacton, and I'd get the first train up every day from Liverpool Street. And actually, I worked with this company again, Creative Partnerships, and I did one of the most rewarding projects I've ever done, and that is when I did a collaboration with Inua Ellams, and we worked with a philosopher whose name I've forgotten, unfortunately, right now, and we did poetry and philosophy in a school in Sydenham, where definitely some of these kids were from sort of some pretty rough backgrounds and stuff, and it was just brilliant. It was a really wonderful project. And I hope these kids are doing all right. And it was just amazing. It was really cool. But this was the other project. And this was the Clacton one. And everyone was a bit culty. They were a bit culty about creativity. They were sort of, it was just a bit like, we're going to bring, there's a guy, I think his name was Tony Robertson or something like that. And I'm not really slagging him off, but he ultimately was pointing out about the failures of our education system and how we should have more creativity. And I'm with him there. I am with him there. But it all just got a bit culty with these people, I thought. It was just a bit... So anyway, change the world one county at a time. Start with Essex is the name of this poem. We catch the early train from Liverpool Street and meet the sun halfway, its first rays making bunny shadows across long Essex fields using real bunnies. I love that line. Before the rusting sprawl of Harwich International makes a nonsense of the buzzword post-industrial, creaking schooners, packed crates, splintered pallets, worldly goods, Tesco bound from China with love. We reach our destination, Dovercourt. A puddle of piss gleams coldly in the entrance hall. This is where they filmed the Britcom Heidi High. The very site where Peggy harboured yellow-coat dreams is now a housing estate. Flapping George crosses and sky dishes, our first line of defence should the Vikings ever return. In the function room of a star-shedding hotel, where corks have been popped and noses broken, we convene, a gaggle of thesps, poets, musicians, painters and potters, not referred to as artists, but creatives. I'm never getting on board with that, by the way. I know I've lost this battle. Never going to refer to myself as a creative or use that verb as a feckin' noun. Sandwiches droop on doilies. Stale bourbon creams betray the many miles of the nearest Arabica bean. The workshop coordinator has no need for caffeine. He's buzzing on the tartrazine of the mission statement, for even failed actors need something to believe in. Today's education system is out of date, tailored towards the needs of the Industrial Revolution. What's needed is creativity to reflect the post-industrial society we now live in. And so with this in mind, does anyone have any questions regarding creativity? I raise my hand. Van Gogh could have been a carpenter. Sylvia Plath a PA. Is creativity always a good thing? I'm later told by another creative that lifting an arse cheek and farting out loud would have gone down better. Lunch arrives. Business cards flutter from palm to palm. I step out, cross the road, plod onto the beachfront. A gentle drizzle rolls in as I buy an ice cream and eat it in full view of some unemployed locals, then lob stones into the churning grey swell, that ultimate engine of creativity, where this carbon-based shambles got started. Bit of nihilism just to sort of end the news section with, I think. So let's have some oldies, shall we? These are all the poems that I will, even if I get lobotomized or something, I'll still be able to recite them by heart. So, yeah, let's read a couple here. This is a classic, if I do say so myself. So we're in the thin wedge at the end of it now. For all the people that couldn't be bothered to buy my other books, it's just the kind of like the best 10 poems or something of my career before this book. So thank you. Okay. Another one based on a Zen Cohen. I didn't actually put it at the I would have normally put it in the book, but this is just how it appears in my second collection, Ventriloquism for Monkeys. But it is based on Zen Cohen, where there's a Zen master walking about his garden and he's talking to himself in two voices. And he's saying, Zygan, Zygan, yes, master, yes, master. Don't take your mind off things. I won't, master. Don't let them fool you. Oh, no, master, I won't. And sometimes the question is asked, which voice is the real Zygan? And I guess it's a similar thing, but you will catch yourself talking to yourself, even if you're not using your mouth, maybe it's in your head. And there's often two voices. Which voice is the real one is an interesting question to ask people. Either, neither, hither, thither. Anyway, this poem is based on that Zenkoan. It's called A Once Famous Ventriloquist Learns to Cope with the Drudgery of a Normal Life. He still scrapes the odd buck from his most famous creation. University shows with the odd F word to show his audience have matured. Halfwit the Hippo and Lord Lovelunch didn't kick up a storm on eBay. His new voices are slightly skewed variations on the same theme. A confident chirp for the bank manager, a geezerish growl down the pub, and of course the stage voice whenever he's recognised at B&Q. He cleans a few windows to get by, mostly for friends of friends, catches his weary reflection as he swipes away the suds, tries to think of it as another puppet, brilliantly operated by a subtle mind. Come evening, he dozes in front of the flicker of his old stage, the ache in his muscles the symptom of a new self he is building, like the meal ticket he once fashioned in his father's cluttered shed. Good night, my love. He whispers as he kills the bedside lamp.
"Good night, my darling. I'm so proud of you,"
replies the photograph of his ex-wife, pronouncing the P in proud with passion and precision. In the book, it's like, you can tell I perform this so much because I say passion and precision, but there it's just passion and precision. It totally miss a trick in my published version there. Okay. You're not spending an hour with me and not having me mention Roger Moore at least once. This is probably the best title. This is from my first pamphlet, actually, which I brought out after my first two collections. My first pamphlet, Sonnet Hack, which is 30 sonnets written in 30 days. And when it was kind of original and novel to do that kind of thing before everyone started doing it after me. And such a tart, aren't I? Anyway, so, and this has just got the best title. If anything, the title was probably better than the poem. I got a whole cultural theory about Octopussy and about how there's this whole sort of scene where Roger Moore sort of follows this circus train, which has got a bomb in it, and it's finally sort of loaded into this cannon, which is where the human cannibal is going to be fired out of, and it gets wheeled into this United States air base in Germany. And throughout this whole kind of struggle, Roger Moore starts off just as James Bond, obviously. Then he ends up getting dressed as like a gorilla for a moment. He stands still as well, and then he gets dressed up as like a sort of knife thrower because he kills one of them and steals his clothes. And then finally, when he goes to defuse the bomb, he dresses as a clown. And I sometimes, most people are like, why is James Bond dressed as a clown? But I like the mythological, I like the reference going on here, the symbolism, which is there is a terrible truth that there is a bomb at the heart of this circus where everyone's having fun, but ultimately there is something within it, a nucleus within it that will kill everyone, a terrible truth. And the only way a person can reveal that terrible truth is by being a clown, by being laughed at first by everyone. That's the idea I like about that. I'm sure it's what the script writers intended. This poem is called In Defense of the Decision to have Roger Moore dress up as a clown for the bomb disposal scene in Octopussy. Our heroes often seem like clowns at first, a twitch or piercing stare too damn intense. We cannot comprehend their urgent words. The truth that first appears in gaudy dress elicits laughter from the seated plebs until the ticking bomb pans into view, the counter running down its final pips, collective colons trumpet toodaloo, and what was once the brunt of ridicule is now the steady hand, the measured grasp, our final tie to the corporeal, as open-mouthed we occupy the cusp of this whole breath, this ever-fleeting now that tears us from our dreams of tomorrow. So, I want to read out a comment. Here we go. Was watching Stella Street recently and loved Rog in a house fire. He leant out the window and nonchalantly remarks to Michael Caine, "Help me, I'm trapped in a burning building." Excellent. The best thing about that scene also is he defuses the bomb and then like everyone's fine. Everyone's like, yeah, all right. They don't like have everyone's traumatized and is like slowly led out of the room or something like that. And it's just like it's a Roger Moore Bond film, so he defuses the bomb and everyone's like, anyway, where were we? Woohoo, circus. I love it. Okay, two more and I'm done. Two more and you guys can go and have an evening of it. This is a penultimate, so I'm going to read the penultimate and then the ultimate poem in the collection. I like this one. It's another pretentious Zen poem. I used to go to the Ritzy like before they started scabbing on their workers. This was a long time ago, and you could pay £3.50 if you went in at 10:30 in the morning, and everything from the blockbusters to the art house films. And I watched like Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man and some really cool films at 10:30 in the morning in Brixton for £3.50. And sometimes I was the only person in the cinema, and I've always enjoyed that. and it's always been interesting films where I'm the only person in the cinema. And I'm trying to think. I think me and a mate once went to see Army of Darkness, the third Evil Dead film, and the cinema was empty. Amazing. Okay, empty cinema. Take a seat without popcorn or cola. House lights up. Auditorium empty. The movie doesn't start for 20 minutes. You watch the blank white screen, enthralled. It only looks like there's 20 minutes a day. Sometimes it's a black screen, the same as the doors and walls when the lights are off. No, maybe it's a slight glowering rectangle, barely existing thanks to the scant green glow of the emergency exit signs. Otherwise, it's adventures, 24 frames per second. Everyone stares, not knowing what it really is, in the same way they stare at all things: apples, windows, genitals. Ultimately, a blank white screen is the hardest damn thing in the world to look at. Try it. Within seconds, your head is throbbing with all those water torture pop songs, images of all those old loves that did or didn't, things you'd say to the boss if you had a pair. It takes another 10 minutes to accept. White screen, framed in black, silence, inhale, exhale. It's funny. You paid to get in here for noise, CGI, spectacle, explosions, heroes, heroines, only to find you needed the exact opposite. At which point, you're rabbit punched by the Pearl and Dean jingle. A piss weak American beer becomes your sole passion, enslaves your tongue to your eye. Last time I went to the cinema was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. We've got some multilingual comments here. I wouldn't mind, actually. I don't understand that, mate, but good for you. Good for you. Waiting for that army of trolls, to be fair. I mean, it'd be great if they turned up now, because now it would really help the viewer count, you know? Okay, best joke ever, Mr. Johnny Alucard there. My parents were called Pearl and Dean, but I called them Grandma and Grandpapa, papa. Very good, very good. You know what the final poem is. If you have in any way followed my career, and that's I had to kind of do a special nose grab when I referred to what I do as a career. But everyone who perhaps knew me back in the day would know this poem. This poem was called by the late, great Roddy Lumsden. I nearly called him Johnny Lumsden. Roddy Lumsden. Roddy Lumsden called this my get out of jail poem. Roddy Lumsden also gave some really good advice to help me with my sonnet writing as well. So I'll be forever grateful to him for a lot of stuff. My favorite, see, there's even a car horn beeping outside just to salute Roddy. My favorite thing about Roddy, I wasn't really chasing people for quotes. We ended up using, like, you see this, funny and compassionate. That's like I think it's like a 15-year-old quote from a Time Out article about Poetry Unplugged, but said my book, called my first book Funny and Compassionate. Anyway, I didn't really chase people for quotes this time because I can't be asked of all that. But I got a quote from my second book from Roddy Lumsden. That's my product placement. And all I remember is Roddy saying, "I'm no genre hybrid, but at the end of the day, I'm a good writer." And I thought, that's really nice, Roddy. That's really, really nice of you. I'm going to put that. Roddy was one of the first poets I've met that I owned a book by. So it was a big thing for me, getting that from Roddy and the help he'd given me previously in my career. Anyway, fast forward a few months and Roddy's slagging off another poet. And I just remember him saying, hey, he's not a good poet. He's a good writer. And I kind of went, yeah, like that. As I realized that was the wording that he had used. Uh, so I almost want to use it now. I kind of love that quote more because if Roddy was anything, he was the John Gielgud of poetry. In the sense that there are stories of John Gielgud always putting his foot in it. Okay, final poem, get out of jail poem. Everyone knows I was a gardener for many years. And so this is this poem that I wrote about greasy spoon calves. And I'm going to finish with this one. And thank you all for listening. And thank you all for taking part. And yeah, I'll read this one out. Maybe if anyone wants to ask me any questions or whatever, I can linger with the chatters. But for now, calf. Come on in, say sticky plastic yellow letters in that warm, sizzling, fat steam vocabulary of all-day breakfast, pie and mash, hot and cold drinks. Come on into the workers' cafe, where every table is a smoking table, where you can be that 14 and a half stone. That was, when I wrote the poem, that was like a really heavy weight, but I would never be. I crossed lines this lockdown, weight-wise, but I never knew I could cross. And it was definitely more than 14 and a half stone. Anyway, where you can be that 14 and a half stone of unshaven, mud-flecked, callus-pained, blah, 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 where you can be that 14 and a half stone of unshaven, mud-flecked, callus-palmed, unshaven, hungover, foul-mouthed, tobacco-stained, unapologetic masculinity that this skimmed cappuccino society wants to castrate and send to a counsellor. Come on in to the last bastion of a page-free front, where you can eat your beans, then break your wind, then look at your colleague as if you have just done a rare and wonderful thing, where you can ask for 3 sugars without having to repeat yourself, where you can leave the daily sport open at whatever page you like, apart from the horoscopes, where the toast is loaded with so much butter you could lubricate a chainsaw with it, and where you can slag off your boss all you want because you know he's up the road at the Pret Manger. The original version has Coffee Republic, but no one knows what Coffee Republic is now. Late 90s, early noughties calf prices alert. Yeah. Come on in for full English breakfast, £2.20, £3 with tea or coffee, super special breakfast, £3.60, mega special breakfast, £4.25, vegetarian breakfast, £1.20. Come on in. Bring your headache. Bring your divorce. Bring your beautiful gut. Bring your 5-day beard. Bring your eyes red with whiskey and held back tears. Bring your near relegation 2nd division hopes. Bring your pawn shop refuse dreams. Come on in. Take a seat. You don't even have to wipe your feet because hygiene is not your main concern. Yeah, we know. That's why we stopped buying soap for the bogs about a decade ago. And that hot plate's going to keep on sizzling for you till 5:30 this evening for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's all the time you need to fill that cantankerous old void before it's time for the pubs to take over. There we go. There she is. We've been waiting a while for this one to come out. I hope you guys have enjoyed your copies. If you have bought your copies, big thank you to Knee Parks, obviously, and to ABBA as well, and to everyone else at Flip Tie for all the help that they've given me. I'm very proud to bring this out with Flip Tie. Still very proud to be involved with Flip Tie, and I hope that Flip Tie will go from strength to strength. What was I going to say? Oh, cool. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone. I enjoyed. That's my first like proper reading for ages, and I have to say I like reading for like an hour, and I like talking. And you don't back on the London poetry scene. You don't get that opportunity. I feel like most gigs are 15, 20 minutes. I've just warmed up. I've just started. So it's always good. I used to get booked for a lot of these gigs for an hour. I'd go off to Germany or somewhere, read for an hour. Back when I was somebody, back when I was a contender. Anyway. Oh, that whiskey is hitting the spot. Yeah. I was going to have a quick look at the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Annie. Yay. Good. Well, this will be up on the YouTubes. And I really enjoyed it. We're in competition with Luke Wright and Attila the Stockbroker. right now, I believe. So there we go. They might still be on right now. But to all of you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone. If you bought the book, great. If you haven't bought it yet, that's fine. I forgive you. I know it's not available from the tax dodgers or anything right now, so it's still available from Fliptie. Thank you, Mr. Heyho, Muddy Feet Poetry. And thank you for the congratulations. And yeah, thank you, everyone, especially the Russian comments. You know, I'm going to go to Google Translate and I'll either go, oh, thank you, or I'll go, what? Or I'll go like that. Who knows? Who knows? I did put some pretty intense filters into the chat just in case. So, yeah, is it like that? Is it? Did we get a troll who wrote in Russian? Oh, that's so sweet, though, isn't it? It's so sweet that someone has tried going in, writing stuff like, you know, polish my penis or something, and then the filters wouldn't let them, so they started posting in Russian instead. But anyway, whoever they are, if it is what I think it is, they can fuck off, can't they? Anyway, okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a really, 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 really lovely night. Thank you all for being part of this. And yeah, take care. Take care. Catch you next wave. Oh, yeah. And if you want to ever hang out, I Twitch stream every Wednesday. Twitch.tv/Rusty Niall. And what I do is I read poems. Then from now on, I'm doing something where I read one new poem every week. So it's going back to my open mic days where I write a new poem and I share it with the world, because I kind of want to take it back to that sometimes. And then I play a game like normally Red Dead and write poems while I play the game, kind of improvising from the open world. And that's what I do. So if anyone ever wants a bit of that, I stream for about 2 hours from 8 to 10 every Wednesday on Twitch while we're all still locked up. So feel free to say hello to me there if you'd like. Other than that, I will take up your time no more. Have a lovely evening. Take care. Thank you very much. Cheers.